Welcome to But Jesus Drank Wine.
And other stories that kept us stuck. I'm Mead.
And I'm Christy.
In this podcast, we'll explore the stories that kept us, stuck, wanting to drink and not wanting to drink all at the same time.
Join us as we show you that freedom from alcohol does not have to mean a life sentence of misery and missing out,
but actually means living an authentic life full of peace, joy, and purpose.
Hello, my beautiful friend. We have a really special, exciting guest on today's episode. For you gals in the US, you might not know her as well as us gals here in the UK, but we are welcoming Millie Mackintosh to the podcast today. Millie was the star of a reality show called Made in Chelsea. She was on it for 5 seasons. She was definitely my favorite on that show. And she has gone on to have so many incredible beauty and fashion collaborations with brands all over the world. She is a mother of 2 beautiful little girls. And if you're not following her already on Instagram, all of her tips on wellness and beauty and fashion are so fun to follow. But I actually got to meet up with Millie because we were put in touch by a mutual friend, knowing that we were both sober gals, because Millie has recently celebrated 1 year alcohol-free. I got to meet up with her and chat all about sobriety. And then I asked her to come on our podcast and she said yes. And so we're so lucky to have her. So without further ado, here's our chat with Millie Mackintosh. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good morning or good afternoon to y'all, right?
Yeah. That third voice that you hear is the gorgeous, lovely Millie Mackintosh. We're so excited to have you today to chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Very excited. Apologies in advance if I don't make any sense because both my kids had me up a lot last night and I'm feeling quite jaded today.
Yeah. We were just talking about before we hit record how being exhausted can feel like a hangover.
Yeah.
Right.
I was like, how weird that we're here to talk about my sobriety and I feel like I've got a hangover, but it's purely based on just the tiredness of 2 toddlers. But it kind of feels the same as having a night out.
Yeah, and knowing the effects of alcohol on our sleep and how not rested or how we're not getting that good deep sleep when we've been drinking and staying out late and all of those things. I mean, it makes good sense, but gosh, how much worse would it be if
right? Like I could not have got through my day today if I'd had a few drinks last night. Even like 1 glass of wine would have made me feel a lot worse today. And yeah, I got up, got my work done, here chatting to you ladies, but I'm going to be kind to myself and I'm going to binge watch Selling Sunset after this.
I was very excited to see that has popped up this week.
So yeah, I've kind of scheduled in some me time also to catch up on that rest.
Yeah. And oh my gosh, I love that you said that so much because I think that's one of the things actually that Mead and I work on with clients is scheduling in rest, right? And you time and all of that stuff, which I think when we're living a life drinking by default and not by design, where we can schedule this stuff in, it takes a real toll on us.
Totally. Yeah. I'm all about embracing slowness and it does not come naturally to me. So I'm having to remind myself. I've actually, been having panic attacks recently and it's because I'm not listening to to the signs and, I've got a lot on my plate. So my recent panic attacks kind of showed me, right, I need to actually listen to my body and what it needs and actually kind of schedule in downtime.
Yeah, that's so true.
And just reevaluate how I spend my time and plan my schedule every week and what I prioritize. And I need to shift things a little bit because my mental health and well-being has not been the priority.
Mm-hmm. And that takes getting used to, I think, too. That was something that was, it was like the second part of this journey for me where it was like, oh, because now I can be more proactive and more intentional, what are those things that I get to bring into, I was living life so reactively when I was stuck in the drinking cycle. I mean, I was just playing defense constantly. If it was, if I didn't feel great the next day, then it was me time was more recovering from too much wine the night before, or I'm too exhausted. And so I don't care. I'm just going to cancel whatever I have. Or or what have you. Whereas now that proactive, but there's still a learning curve to that. It's still like, this is a new journey and it's so much better than where I was stuck before. But of course, because it's new and different, it's going to take some, adjusting. So sounds like maybe you're kind of feeling that. How I'm curious to know, I know a little bit about your story, but I'm curious to kind of know how long have you been alcohol free and and also like going back even further from that, kind of what's your story?
Yeah, so I have been alcohol free nearly 15 months. So the 25th of November, I'll be 15 months. And yeah, it's honestly kind of flown by. I decided to go alcohol free last summer. So not the summer, we just had the summer before. And I kind of am like, why did I not do this before? Like
Yes.
why? Like why did it
Yes.
take me so long?
Yeah.
It's been like a real homecoming, like just to really truly start to get to know myself and get to start to actually do the healing. I was like, all the feelings I was masking with alcohol have been coming up. So, oh yeah, I'll tell you a bit my journey, but just a little bit about where I'm at right now. To be honest, it's not like just super easy, smooth sailing just because I'm alcohol free. It's actually I'm doing a lot of work on myself and inner child work, and I'm having
Mhm.
panic attacks, and I'm really in it, and I'm having quite a lot of anxiety that I just thought if I was sober would just go completely.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so
And
honest.
it's
Yeah.
actually like, no, now you get to feel your feelings and it's hard, but
Mhm.
it's still like so worth it. And I'm working through it. And there's like moments where it's so great, but it's a bit of a roller coaster right now. And I feel like it's because I'm going through a real point of change and like leaving a lot of the old me behind. And because I'm right in it, like it's like I know on the other side of it is it's gonna be so much easier. And I've just got to get like ride out this bit. But I'm really like in it right now for a lot of reasons, like just with like work, the age my kids are at, like the tiredness. But I'm doing a lot of the self work. I feel like I can't even fully explain all of it because I'm so in the process that it's hard to talk about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like it's like I
Yeah.
can, and it's also so personal to each person. But I'm doing a lot of inner child work and like things like body work and breath work and doing lots of trauma release and like lots of kind of more spiritual practices and leading into that. And that's really what's helping me through.
Yeah. I love that the way that you approach all of this so much, Millie, because you've always been so honest and so open and so vulnerable. And you do that with when you talk about your sobriety journey, but also when you talk about, parenting young kids. And that's what I think is so amazing about what you're doing is because that vulnerability is relatable to so many women and so many moms. And so I just, yeah, so appreciative of you saying what's real, because sobriety isn't all sunshine and unicorn and rainbows, It's
Right.
often when the real work starts.
Totally. I don't think I had really scratched the surface of doing any self work until I got sober. I was like, yeah, I do therapy. I'm working on myself. I had not scratched the surface because I couldn't even properly access my true emotions.
Yeah.
I have had quite a fractured relationship with alcohol for most of my life since I started drinking in my early teens. The first time I ever, my first drunk experience, drank to blackout and like threw up and was like really humiliated. And the boy I was dating like dumped me the next day. And it felt like I just got off on a bad foot like, with that because then I just kind of kept repeating this cycle of drinking to blackout, drinking too much, like drinking, not, waking up being like, what happened last night? And it just kind of continued. Like, not every
Mhm.
time, but I've definitely never really learned to have those good boundaries with alcohol where I could just have like one or two drinks. And yeah, of course, there's plenty of times where I did just have a glass of wine or one to two drinks. But quite often, when I planned to just have one to two drinks, it would end up being, a binge drinking session that I would take like days to recover from.
Mhm.
And as I've got
Yeah.
older, as I was getting older, that was the the anxiety and the hangovers just got worse and worse. And, I've been in the public eye for over 10 years. I feel like that like kind of adds into it, the stress that comes with that. But then also like, you know, being seen out, like when you're kind of really drunk and getting pictured and dealing with the anxiety from that. And then having my kids and stress of being like a young mom and a new mom, it just did not mix well with me and alcohol. And I had a couple of things happen where I was like, this is a sign I need to like take note. I had like a couple of things that happened over a year. One was at a friend's hen party. After like 2 days of drinking, I literally like couldn't pick myself up off the floor. I was in a lovely hotel. Everyone else was like hungover, but they could kind of cope. But I literally was like, I'm going to jump out that window because that would be easier than feeling like how broken I feel. And I was like, my best friend was like, the next day, like when I was feeling a bit better, she was like, I cannot like see you like that again. She was like, she was like, you're different to other people. You cannot handle how it's affecting your mental health. She was like that. You just got to like take note of that because this is really like not good for you. So that was one quite big thing. Then I went to a wedding where I planned to just have 1 to 2 drinks, got blackout drunk, was just in a state all night, just literally being that person that everyone tries to run away from at a party, losing my phone continually, like crying in the corner, like just I saw the pictures from the wedding and I was just in the background of loads of them, just like completely just looking off my face. I was so embarrassed and had a kind of big fight with my husband. Was just wasn't good. And then I had a massive panic attack after drinking not long after that and felt like I was dying. It was probably at that point the worst panic attack I'd had. I really truly believed I was dying. And in that moment, I was like, I can never do this to myself again with alcohol. And that was when I stopped drinking.
Yeah. I was listening to your story on another podcast, and I actually had the same jump out the window thought at one point during a really bad hangover. I so relate with that maybe that would just be easier, than feeling like this right now. And I'm so glad we're all saying it because of what we've been conditioned to believe that alcohol is, right? Which is the thing that makes everything sunner, brighter, better. And
Yeah,
it's so not that for so many people.
definitely. It wasn't for me. It just, it promises to bring you like fun and, but like joy. And actually it was like destroying the joy in my life
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
like there's no way you can feel joy when you feel anxious. And
Yeah.
honestly, I am so glad to have removed it from my life. And I said to myself, like, I'm going to do this for a year and just see. But there's no kind of going back now, I don't think, because I've tried every way to make alcohol work for me and it just
Mhm.
doesn't. So
Yeah.
then I was like, maybe if I just do loads of work on myself and figure out why I'm anxious and fix myself, then I'll be able to drink again without feeling anxious, right?
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. But then I started listening to lots of podcasts and reading about the effects of alcohol on the body and brain. And I was like, oh, but alcohol actually is making me more anxious as well. It's not just like making me sensitive. And I am a very emotionally sensitive person. But no, alcohol is actually like damaging your brain
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
creating more anxiety.
We always talk about how, yeah, for me, it was, I mean, literally, I didn't know, but it was throwing gasoline on the fire. I was already feeling, I was more of a anxious type, if you will, and type A with all the, all the things, holding it all together, doing all the whatever, and, you know, pouring wine into on a regular basis and to excess at times was literally just adding gasoline to the fire. And once I found freedom from alcohol, I was like, wow. And to your point, like it doesn't all go away, but we're able to manage it and it's greatly reduced. My anxiety is so much less. I'm also, 4 years here into this journey where you're so newly, and I so appreciate what Christy said. I just want to echo that too, that like you talking about it kind of like in process is just so beautiful and so valuable. And so thank you for doing that.
I
But
love what you just said about like the freedom,
yeah.
because it really is like the most freeing thing. And a big shift for me was when I realized I get to not drink. Like
Mm.
I get to
Yes.
choose
Yep.
to put myself first. Fuck what anyone else thinks or says, or if it makes them uncomfortable. Actually, this is me prioritizing myself, my future self, how I'm going to feel tomorrow, and how my future me is going to feel,
Mhm. Mhm.
and just like honoring myself.
I, I would love to hear too about like the impact that that has had on your kids. Cause that, I
Yeah.
think that's one of the things that I learned. It's like, my drinking was such that I was like, okay, I can see where it's getting in the way and I'm not able to be the mom that I want to be. Going into it, like I'm doing this for the kids. No, if we do it from a standpoint of taking care of ourselves, getting into the, like doing the work that we get to do to kind of see where we've maybe been kicking the can down the road or pushing things down that we haven't dealt with that needs to come up. Like doing that work is then what has allowed me to just show up I don't like have to effort so much showing up the way I want to show up with my kids. It just happens naturally because I'm kind of like pouring from that full cup again. Has that been your experience, or are you seeing that so far?
Like I'm not gonna lie, like my kids, it's hard. Like their ages that they are, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
It's so intense. It really
Mhm.
feels like it's turned up a notch recently. And I am so glad I'm sober, because sometimes, when they trigger me in that moment, I do feel like snapping, or, I'm not perfect. Like I try to gentle parent. Sometimes I do like shout and then I catch myself and I say sorry. But if I was drinking, I think my fuse would be so much shorter. And
Mhm.
also, it's like I'm present for like 90% of every bath and bedtime. I do work. I'm not around with them all day, every day during the week, but I make sure to be there for them in like those times when it's important and we have like quality time together. And I think if I was drinking, I wouldn't like care so much about having that time. I'd be more like,
Yeah.
that's when mummy needs her drink, and, daddy can put them to bed, or our nanny can put them to bed, because mama's just going to unwind from the day with a, nice gin and tonic while she makes dinner. But I'm like, no, dinner can, or I'll prioritize, like I'll prep dinner earlier in the day so I can like then put them to bed and like spend that time reading stories, and then still have like an evening with my husband. And I'm so glad that they're going to grow up to see me as a role model
Mm.
and
Yeah.
have that. And all I can do is just talk to them openly and honestly about my experiences. And, obviously I hope they won't use alcohol in the way that I did as a teen. I hope that they won't feel that they need to. I was bullied quite a lot at school. And I think that's what led to the binge drinking in the teens, to like escape how I felt. So I'm confident that they're going to have a different experience than I did. And I think that like younger generations are now,
Yeah.
luckily, drinking differently to how we did.
Yeah. 100%. And take it as someone who literally was just I couldn't short circuit dinner, bath, and bed fast enough when my kids were that age.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't. I didn't want to do it. I wanted someone else to do it. I wanted the nanny to do it. I wanted anybody to do it, because
Yeah.
all I really cared about was getting that quote unquote reward relief at the end of the day from the wine. And so it's so important, I think, to show the difference of what it feels like to be the parent that does actually want to be there for the bath time. Because it's one thing to just be there, and there's another thing to like want to be there, you know? And I was listening to you say there was a photograph of some, I don't know exactly what it was, but you were drinking and you were like nervous for the girls to like see it one day, you know? And I just thought to myself, oh my gosh, but Millie, like you get to show them like what that was compared to what now is, and what they're gonna
That's
remember.
true.
What they're gonna remember
Mhm.
is you being there every single night for or most night when it counted. And that's what the most important thing.
I feel like the stage I'm at with my kids at the moment, and then also the work I'm doing, on myself, which is a lot of inner child work, is quite interesting. And it's really making me like reparent myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of really triggering me in the way that I'm doing my own self work as well. I think because Sienna really looks like me as a child too. So when I do have those moments where I'm finding it really hard, I just have to kind of remember to just that my inner child gets triggered too. My inner toddler wants to come out too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, yeah, it's definitely helping me to just remember how small she is and how it is in her mind and how to kind of respond to her instead of just responding with like fire, because we're very similar and we're both quite feisty and she can bring out like, and it's like, okay, that's not going to get me anywhere. So I have to take like a different approach. It's definitely teaching me a lot. But I do feel, I don't always feel like I'm getting it right. Just to be honest.
I don't think any of us did too, babe. I mean, any of us did.
As soon as I'm like, okay, I'm getting this right, then yeah, I get a quick reminder of how many mistakes I make. But I think about how your girls are never going to have any memory of you drinking. Like my kids, when I found freedom from alcohol, were a little bit older. The younger one won't remember, but the other two do remember. And now they have this ability to kind of even say like what is different, which is nice to hear too. But your girls are just going to know mom who was present, and the capacity that we have when we're free from alcohol, the capacity to go to even ask the questions of like, did I handle I felt
Mm-hmm.
irritated then, and I did, like I still definitely lose my temper sometimes, and raise
I
my
think
voice and things.
it's about what happens after though, right? And I think that's so
Yes.
important. It's important to show our kids that we fuck up too. And if you lose it and shout,
Mm,
it feels so awful in that moment, but you can rectify it by saying,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm sorry. I messed up. I shouldn't have shouted. I'm sorry I shouted at you. And showing them that it's okay, and just to say, mummy messes up too. And we say
Yeah.
sorry and we hug it out and we talk about it and it's okay. That's like makes it much less damaging than just like shouting and then like leaving the house and not resolving it and leaving it like that. The other day, I'm quite an emotional person. I do cry, and I'm welcoming it more recently and just trying to be more like, you know, it's okay being more okay with crying. But it's hard for me to cry in front of my kids because I don't want them to see me upset, because I'm meant to be like
mm,
their rock. And if it's like that, I don't want them to feel unsafe. But it had been a lot that day, and I had shut myself in the bathroom and was crying. Sienna just kept banging the door saying, "Mummy, mummy, mummy, let me in, let me in." And eventually I did let her in, and I let her see that I was crying. And she said, "Oh, mummy, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And she said, "Like, mummy's finding things really hard right now. Like, mummy's feeling really overwhelmed." And she was just so sweet. She just came, gave me a hug,
mm,
and she was like, "Come and watch TV with me, mummy." And I did, and we had a cuddle, and I think it was good for her to see that, I'm not perfect too, and like it's okay to cry, and also just to show her that crying isn't bad, and when she does have tantrums, I'm very much like, just let it out. It's okay. Just don't cry and stop it. That's just like, I feel like the worst thing we can say to them when they're in the middle of that tantrum.
Mm-hmm.
Millie, I
Yeah.
just have like full chills when you described that scene, because you had said like it's less damaging when we can come back and say I made a mistake, but even being more than less damaging, it is so valuable for our. That's something I've learned that I wasn't paying attention to any of that stuff when I was stuck in the drinking
Mm-hmm.
cycle. It just wasn't on my radar. I was just trying to survive, just trying to keep my head above the water, honestly. And the value that in being able to teach them that, like, of how to have the emotion, then I mean that right there is huge, and is going to pay dividends far greater than yeah, it's just amazing. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. I really wanted to ask you both, like, when you were in your like first like year or two of sobriety, like, did you find like you turned to something else? Because I am addicted to chocolate. I
You're not
if
alone.
If
I
we
have
had a
never
Penny for every time we heard
yeah
that, right?
You're probably like, oh God, where's she going with this? But I didn't
Yeah.
used to ever really care about chocolate that much. Like I'm more of a savory person. I've just never like been that into chocolate. I could take it or leave it. And now I have to have chocolate like every day.
I did it too. I did it too. I
So
think, well, first of all, I know that you eat really healthy because we've been so,
I eat paleo chocolate, or like it's
yeah,
not like the kind of refined sugar kind. I like really dark chocolate. So I have to have a little piece like every day, or I'm not eating like, 10 chocolate bars a day, but I'm having a little hot chocolate or a little, just a little piece of chocolate here and there. And I'm just obsessed.
yeah, I did that. I did the same thing. Probably not as healthy of a chocolate, but I had a lot of chocolate, and I also had a mocktail every night. I did my whole thing during COVID. So it was at 5 p.m. It was Pink Lady time, and it was ginger ale, cranberry juice, and lime, and the whole family had them.
I
But
love
it
that.
was, yeah, I think that ritual and that swap and is important. Mead, what about you?
Yeah, well, so when I was stuck in the drinking cycle, I would never have taken I mean, I like sweets, I like desserts, I like chocolate, but I would if I was taking the calories from wine, I would never have had dessert too. So that was my trade-off. I wasn't a big dessert person. When I found freedom from alcohol, I was like, "Oh, I get to eat the desserts now because I'm not taking in all those wine calories and just because
Yeah.
I get to if I want to, and it doesn't have to mean there's anything wrong with it. It doesn't have to mean that I'm using it as like whatever. It's just that this is something I get to do, and I can just be, I can ask myself, is this something that I want? Yeah, this is what I want. And how does it make me feel? And we talk a lot about that in our coaching that we do. But I say have all the chocolate. I mean,
Yeah.
this is what you get to do. At least that was for me. I was like, I get to do this because I'm saving all those calories, not drinking wine. And yeah,
Totally. Like I lost a dress size and I eat like really I don't eat in a restrictive way. But
yeah,
it's like I'm not having those however many extra calories a week. So yeah, I can eat the dessert. I can have like my burger and fries, like all these things. I eat quite a balanced way, but I'm not like eat I used to just be like restrictive, 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 one cheat meal a week. Restrictive, 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 one cheat meal a week. And now it's much more like balanced.
Yeah.
has that
Yeah.
changed since you found freedom from alcohol? I mean, that was a shift that happened.
Totally.
Oh, because I noticed that too. There's it's
Mhm.
not as
I'm not as
mm,
controlled. Like I'm much more like intuitive to like what does my body need today? What am I craving? Okay.
Mhm.
What and like, what do I need? What's gonna make me feel good? And yeah, I feel like I'm more in tune with my body in that way.
that's
Yeah,
one of the greatest gifts I think
I
of
agree.
being in this space is that and it goes back to how we are saying that yes, we have to learn it. It's new, so it's different. There's a learning curve and it's going to take some practice, but what we get in return from being able to do that, yes, if I want the Reese's peanut butter cup times two, great. I'm going to have it and I'm not going to, beat myself up for having it. And I'm not going to worry about it in a way that I was when I was drinking and everything was very, tight and controlled in this negotiation. And now it's the freedom to yeah, pay attention to those things.
So true. Millie, what did the beginning of starting this journey look like for you? Was it hard? I know one of the things that people want to know is what did you tell girlfriends? How did social situations, how did being out doing all the things that you do look like in the beginning?
I was so scared at the beginning. It's so important to be transparent about this.
Yep.
The first few months were really hard,
Hmm.
but as every week went by, I felt like less and less anxious. So that
Hmm.
really like kept me going. I also I'd had therapy before, but I started like specific therapy around substance abuse. Like when I decided to stop drinking, I, I wouldn't class myself as an alcoholic, but I knew that the way I was using alcohol was really disordered. So I felt like, okay, I want to have help with this that's specific, someone that is, going to be able to help me through this. And I saw them weekly. for, I'd say it was about 6 months. And that really helped. And the thing that felt so scary was like, well, what am I going to tell people? And like, what am I going to do to have fun?
Mhm.
And like,
Yep.
how am I going to socialize? Because I'm actually this like introverted extrovert.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. Gosh, that's so weird.
I think a lot of people
Yeah.
who like abuse alcohol or abuse alcohol like are,
Yeah.
because it's like
Yeah.
that's why you feel like so much like you need it
Mhm. Mhm.
to project this confident, calm,
Yep.
image of yourself. And I was like, how the hell am I going to deal with these busy social situations? It was something like accepting that I don't enjoy large social groups. I just don't. And I have to actually be honest with myself that that's okay. I'm
Yeah.
much better in small groups or like one
Mhm.
to one. And that's just like maybe just the way that I am. That and you shouldn't have to try to change that. It's more of an acceptance.
Mhm.
And I feel very tired and almost like energetically hungover after being in a large group of people.
Ugh, I relate to everything that you just said. Every single thing.
And that's been quite a big realization for me. So it's a little like allowing myself to like being kind to myself, almost like I would if I was hungover. Like, when we used to drink like hungover and you'd be like, oh, it's harder obviously once you've got kids, but I'm going to have a lion. I'm going to really wallow in this like all day and just like treat myself because I've got a hangover. When you're not drinking, you're like, it's harder to give that to yourself, but
Mhm.
it's really important, like to think, okay, am I energetically hungover? And to treat yourself really kindly still, just even though you don't have like an alcohol hangover, you need to be gentle with yourself when you've been in a big social gathering. But
Yeah.
for me, yeah, the first couple of things that I went to, I kind of looked at my diary and I was like, right, what is not essential? And that like came out. And then the things that I did choose to be at, I made this big thing in my head of like, what am I going to say? And I don't think anyone even asked me at the first one why I wasn't drinking. And
I
then
love
I
that.
remember I chatted to someone else that's sober, and just that was like, great, perfect. I'm going to find my safe person. I feel like I can just talk to about it. And also I was kind of at that point of wanting to just find out how it was for them. And so I'd kind of find my like sober people at a party that I could speak to. A pregnant person always was good as well because they're not going to be
Yeah.
drinking. Leave early. Don't make it harder for yourself. It's hard to be around people that are drinking when this is
Mhm.
new, and it's hard to be around drunk people for sure. It's just irritating, and it makes me feel like I need a drink to cope with being around them.
Totally. 100%.
So it's
100%.
like give yourself permission to leave.
Yeah. Leave early.
Oh my God, go arrive early and leave early and like bring your own non-alcoholic drink with you would be my
Yeah.
top tips for the beginning.
Yeah. That's so good. I just want to like scoot back to the introvert extrovert thing because
Yeah,
I so related to that. I feel like when you realize, and I think we're all the same here, when you realize that you recharge alone, it is a game changer. It is a
totally.
game changer. I've just come back from 3 days at farmhouse and with a big group of girls for a friend's 50th. And at one point I literally said, okay, gals, I'm just going to go to my room. I'm going to go to my room. You guys go on, swim, do whatever you're going to do. And I literally just had like a 3 hour timeout by myself. And it felt so good. And it meant that I could then go to dinner and turn myself back on, you know?
Yeah, it's so important. I never really enjoyed time on my own before. And then since being sober, I've been like, I actually really like my own company. And I kind of discovered this
Hmm.
last year when last December I took myself off for a couple of days and went to like a wellness clinic for like 4 nights, I think 4 or 5 nights on my own. And I was like, oh wow. Like it was honestly just like heaven. I like read books, just spent time on my own. I went for walks in nature. Just was like, oh my God, I'm comfortable with my thoughts and just
Yeah.
I don't need to like constantly be distracted and like to run away from my feelings.
Yeah.
And I think solitude is a really important part of my like healing process. And often when I am feeling overwhelmed and anxious, it's because I have not been prioritizing enough of it. And like, let's be honest, it is really hard to do when we're like working mums, or, there's I've got a lot of other priorities, and it just feels impossible to have that time alone because other people rely on you. But I'm learning that, prioritizing my own mental well-being is not selfish, but it's still a journey. Because
Yeah.
I do feel guilty sometimes when I take that time for myself.
Yeah.
I remember in the beginning it asking me to be like alone by I was the person I always wanted, music on or listening to, whatever, calling a friend on the phone. I was never by myself, and I like that. And when I started my freedom from alcohol journey, it was like carving out this little bit of like time for stillness and silence and just in solitude. And it turned into my time with the Lord, being a Jesus follower. But it was painful. It was hard. It was really, really, really hard to just for 5 minutes to be kind of still by myself when I was used to wanting to like always be around all the people and doing all the things. And now it's just so funny how I'm like, who knew that I actually really enjoy that time? But it's because of that re-energized feeling that I get from having that space. And like you said, Millie, like being alone with like your thoughts. And I mean, that's where we have that opportunity to then show up differently, like back. I think that's the thing that is the most surprising. One of the most surprising things to me is, oh, okay, if I take this time away by myself, then actually I'm showing up in a totally different way. That's something that helps me with the guilt,
Yeah.
but something I had to, kind of learn over time. So I totally, totally get that.
Yeah, I think my mindfulness practice has really changed since becoming alcohol free. Oh, what do you keep calling it? Since discovering freedom from alcohol?
Freedom from alcohol.
I really like that. I might have to like start using that because
Please do.
I've
Do
been
it.
saying alcohol free, but since like discovering freedom from alcohol sounds so nice, and really that is like how it feels. I would meditate before, but now I'd say I've actually realized I was just listening to the guided meditation on the app to feel like I was ticking a box, but I wasn't. I wasn't. And then I was just sitting and thinking all my different thoughts. And
Yeah.
being like, okay, I did it. Perfect. I'm so zen.
So zen. I love that. Yeah, exactly.
Like, but actually now I'm working with like a therapist and doing like this like breath work, and I have a personalized like guided breath track that I do every morning, and it's like 20 minutes. It's like a kind of guided breath and meditation, and it's just really about noticing what comes up while you're doing it and just observing it. And it's a really good practice to have, and it's helping me notice the different parts that come online, the different, the inner critic, the different voices.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So the work I'm doing
She's
at the
a
moment
bad
is
one, that
it's
critic.
tuning in. I've actually named mine, and so it's helping me to notice. I'm like, oh, okay, there you are, and noticing.
What's her
and-
name? Can you say it? Maybe
I've
you don't
called-
have to share.
No, I've called her Karen.
That's amazing.
It's like
the best.
it's like, okay, thanks, Karen. I get it. I know, noted. I know you're trying to help, but I really don't need you right now. And this is part of the kind of self work right now. So probably people are listening. They're like, "What is she on about?"
Oh,
That's
right.
brilliant. And we're right there with you.
Yeah, I think naming the inner critic is a good way to really notice, like when they're talking, or when you're having those thoughts.
Yeah. What's been the best, most rewarding part of sharing your alcohol-free story?
I just get so many messages from all sorts of different people, but mainly from mums
Yeah.
saying, thank you. You've inspired me. You've helped me on my own journey. And it just feels so good that I am able to help people by spreading the word and being honest. And I was very scared to share about this journey because I felt like I was going to be judged. And what would people think? Would people think I had a problem? And with that,
Yes.
like, oh, what if a brand doesn't want to work with me? But I'm kind of so past all of that now. And actually, I think people like the openness, like you said. And I really am actually enjoying sharing my journey. And I find it really cathartic. I love hearing from people. I also,
Mhm.
it helps me following other people who are on their sober journey like you are. And that inspires me to keep going. So if I can be that for somebody else, then that's a great gift. And I feel like all I can do is like keep sharing and being open and honest about it because like you said, it's not all unicorns and rainbows. Like
Mhm.
this is where you actually do the work and it's hard. It hurts. It's like you're actually feeling your feelings probably for the
Mhm.
first time in,
Yes.
since you were a teen, because you're not just, pushing them down, drowning them out, numbing.
Yeah.
You're truly feeling. And I think the best way to heal is through feeling. I think that's really, truly the only way to heal.
Mhm.
But it doesn't, that healing process doesn't go in straight lines. There's bumps in the road.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like
Yeah.
I've taken 2 steps back because I'm having a panic attack. I'm like, oh God, I'm doing so much work on myself. Like, why do I feel worse than ever? But I know I've just got to keep going. And I really feel like I am already like kind of so much more connected to myself and to my true self and really getting
Yeah.
comfortable with who I really am and figuring that person out,
Yeah.
valuing that person, showing up more as the person like I want to be in the future,
Mhm.
and getting really into, like gratitude, manifestation, just like all of these amazing practices. Yeah, I'm definitely in my self development era.
I think it's beautiful. No time like the present. I like it. I describe my time stuck in the drink. Yeah, like since my teen years, really. I mean, I had a 25-year career of being a, social regular drinker. Not really even, yeah, anyway, story for another day. But I was pushing the beach. I was trying to push the beach ball under the water. Like I was using all of this energy just constantly trying to keep that beach ball under the water when it came to emotions. Although I would have told you, being naturally empathic, like as an empath, that I was very in tune, like I had a lot of emotional intelligence, I thought. But what I had was maybe, emotional intelligence for other people, but I was not in touch with my emotional, states, if you will, pushing that beach ball into the water. That's what I was doing. And once I found freedom from alcohol, it's like, oh, the energy that I was using to push that underwater. I mean, that was exhausting. Now I have this new energy.
Yeah.
And so while I'm getting to feel feelings that I've never felt, even the ones that really like grief and sadness. And I mean, at times like despair for, the world our kids are growing up in and all the things that you can get so overwhelmed by. Even when I am in the thick of it with those emotions, it is still 1,000 times
Yeah.
better and more freeing and more light and more because I'm actually, walking into it as opposed to trying to just keep
But
pushing down.
and the
Yeah.
more you try to push it down, it's just going to come up harder.
Yeah.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
going to come up and it's going to come out in yelling at the kids and my husband in a way or showing up in a way that's not, yeah, it's way crazier than I do now. But
Have you kind of picked up any new hobbies or like discovered anything new that you like to do that you weren't interested in before you were drinking?
I think I
Before when you
told
were
you this
drinking?
when we had lunch. I play paddle. I want you to come play paddle.
I've had it
Have you
so
tried
much
it yet?
fun. I am so uncoordinated because I have dyspraxia. So I really worry that I can't hit a ball. Like I can't even hit a tennis ball and paddles really fast. But hey, like I'm sure I could learn. Never say never. Apparently
Yeah.
it's really fun.
It is
Does look fun.
super fun. It's super fun.
mm,
But what about you? What have you picked
yeah.
up or started?
Okay, so since I started my alcohol free journey, I felt that I would never dance again because I feel quite awkward in my body. I don't feel like I'm somebody that's naturally like a dancer. I've never felt kind of confident moving my body. Like, yeah, I remember when I was a teen, went to a summer school and I signed up to do this dance like group, and I couldn't learn the routine and the girls laughed at me. And it's like going back to these feelings of just being embarrassed and uncomfortable. And then whenever I was at a party and there was music and people were dancing, I would be drunk. So it felt suddenly easier to dance. And that's the only way I ever felt comfortable dancing since I was a teenager. So when I went to weddings over the summer, like people would be on the dance floor and would be like kind of trying to pull me onto the dance floor to join them. And I was just like stiff with like this fear of like, oh God, I can't. I feel so uncomfortable. And it just felt too much. I was like, I can't. And I would just run away and like not be anywhere near the dance floor and leave early. And I was like, that's kind of a shame because, dancing is fun and I love music. And I just thought maybe just I have to accept that without alcohol, dancing is just not for me. Then I went on this retreat in the summer and it was like a kind of spiritual healing retreat. One of the things I discovered there was this thing called five rhythms dancing. And it's like a kind of yogic type of dancing where you move through these different five rhythms and you're not dancing with anybody else. You can do it with your eyes closed. And it's just literally about like the freedom of moving your body how it wants to move and expressing your emotion like with your body. And I was so resistant to doing it. On the day that I knew it was happening, I had like a stomach ache. It was all anxiety. I literally was like, I'm not going to be able to do it. I think I'm ill. I can't. And all of this resistance was showing up in my body because I needed to do it. I did it for like 2 hours. I just stayed in the corner, mainly with my eyes closed. But I started to get into it and I had this massive release where I cried and cried. And I was like, wow, I need to unlock like the key for me to unlocking like my healing is through this dancing and through movement. So it's something I've been like trying to do more in London. I've been going to a couple of different ecstatic dances. They do them different venues in London. And I've made a few like new friends that are more into it. And I don't think any of my old friends would be up for going with me. and I'm really enjoying it. It's very freeing. It's just like, here I am. I don't care like how I look to anyone else. And it's just about how it feels. And I often still stand kind of on the edge with my eyes mainly closed. And I kind of feel envious when I see the people that are really free, just going for it. But I also know that jealousy is just because that's somewhere I want to be. And that's okay because it's a journey and I'm just happen to be at the beginning of it. But even since doing it a couple of times, I can feel this shift where I just feel different in my body. And I think after being in the public eye for over 10 years, I kind of do feel so like aware of how I'm perceived, how other people see me and wanting to always be perfect and look good and look like if I'm doing something, I have to be doing it well and not in a way that someone could like laugh at me and like presenting this like feeling I have to present like this kind of like perfect image. And it's something just so freeing in this way of dancing. So it's something I'm just got to keep doing and learning from. So my Friday nights might look a bit different now.
I love that so much.
But it's also everyone there isn't drinking. It's a sober space.
Yeah.
And I really want to be able to feel like I can go to music festivals and things like that again in the future and wellness ones as well. But not only, kind of a wellness festival where maybe lots of people aren't drinking, but actually just any festival and feel like I can just dance and have fun and have that freedom and just find that joy.
Well, when you go to the ones with all the people who are drinking, they can't even pay attention to what you're doing because they're either drunk or they're thinking about getting their next drink. And the reason why I know, or hitting the bathroom or, what's the line look like or how should I, do I need to eat, whatever. which I know because I was that person when I, used to go to concerts and things before, but I've been to many now and it's like nobody's paying attention to me. They're focused
Mhm.
on their beverages and yeah, which does offer some freedom because I like you, yeah, I would be the first one on the dance floor if it was, a booze fest, but since finding freedom from alcohol, it's taking a little bit more to be, yeah, that free, but it's coming. Yeah. It's so
You
good.
realize that your feet, like, was at a wedding over the summer. It was like actually the first one. And by the time the dancing rolled around and I had been like heels I'm like, this hurt like to dance. And it never hurt when I was drunk
No.
because you couldn't feel it.
So true.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite alcohol free brands, options, all the things?
Yes. Okay. So I love this and I love having good alternatives.
Mhm.
I really like Trip
Hmm.
because I like CBD. I use CBD throughout the day and at bedtime, like every day, because I just feel it just helps with my anxiety.
Hmm.
And I like that you can get it in this drink form. It's not super sweet. And if you do have like one or two at a party or social gathering, it does make me just feel slightly calmer in that
Hmm.
social situation. And I
Hmm.
think that's a really nice option. I also discovered a brand recently called Three Spirit. I don't know if you've tried them. They do one called the Social Elixir, and it's got a certain blend of botanicals that are meant to kind of give you a bit of a natural high.
Hmm.
And I had it when I was socializing a couple of months ago, and I definitely felt like a kind of lift in my mood. I don't know if it's just placebo effect, but it definitely I was like, oh, I actually feel a bit energized and more chatty.
Hmm.
So they've got a couple of different ones that are nice, like with ice, or you can make them into a cocktail, a mocktail. I These are kind of my favorites. Like if I want like a sparkling option, I quite like Wild Idol. And yeah, my main thing is like that I don't like if I go out and there's a mocktail menu, just when it's really sugary, because I do get a sugar hangover. So if
Hmm.
I'm going out, I will get a virgin mojito and ask for it without sugar,
Hmm.
like a sugar
Is that
free
what you
one.
do, mean?
Yeah, or a mule. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I cut the ginger beer and mostly soda water. Yeah, for the same cut the sugar. I'm
Yeah, what are
wonder
your favorites?
I was gonna say I'm wondering if some of those are UK specific. I don't know if they're ever here in the
Yeah.
Now,
States.
Wild Idol, I don't think is in the States yet. I don't
I'm like,
think
am
they
I just
are.
way out of the NA beverage, game or are they just not available over here? But I'm excited to know about those.
There's so many options here now. And like I'm going to a social gathering this weekend. The host very kindly already messaged me to be like, what should we like have to serve for you? And I was like, oh, don't worry, honestly, I've got like loads at home anyway, so I'm just gonna bring some. I think it's always nice to show up with it, because I don't think you can always expect your host
That's true.
to know
Yeah.
like what to offer. And if you do have a brand that you really like, then I just think it's better just to bring it with.
Yeah.
I find sometimes like when I've been abroad, there's not like in different places in Europe. I was in like
Mhm.
Paris, and it was basically like champagne or water when I was at a party recently. I was like, okay. So not everywhere seems to have caught up, but in the UK, I think we're very lucky with how many
Mhm.
different options we've got. What are
Yeah.
your favorites?
I was gonna say, have you tried any of the alcohol-free wines at all?
I have to say, apart from the sparkling ones, I haven't found one that I love.
Okay.
So for me, wine has kind of become something I'm just like, I'm not going to have that alternative, because I don't think it's like going to give me the exact same flavor that I wanted. Actually, I
Yeah.
feel like that's not something I even want anymore.
Yeah.
I am, my favorite thing is to have like more like a cold, refreshing drink that I'll make in a big glass with lots of ice.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
every afternoon around the same time that I would, be excited about opening the bottle of wine, I have a Fever Tree sparkling grapefruit. It's low
Mm,
calorie, low sugar, but I do that with a little I mix it with some LaCroix to, cut it even more and add some ice cubes. It's pink and pretty and I put it in a glass and yeah, it's delightful. Went through a time where I was ordering some dry secco. I forget the name of the brand. I think it's Groovy has one, and there's another one. Sobe has some sparkling AF wine or de-alcoholized wine that
yeah.
I find to be really, really good, but not something that I So I went to visit a girlfriend not too long ago, and I sent a picture of the kids of like this dinner that we made, and we had our NA wines on the table, and one of my kids like texted back like, "Are you drinking wine?" I'm like, "Yes, alcohol-free wine, yeah." But yeah, so having that from time to time, but it's not something that I look forward to my little sparkling, mocktail, if you will, every afternoon, the same way I used to my wine, but I don't have to have alcohol-free wines. If they're there, it's great. But yeah, I haven't really found a ton that I think tastes good or doesn't have junk in them.
Yeah,
I don't want all the
exactly.
junk.
You become more aware of like what you're
Oh, yeah.
consuming. I definitely had this moment where I had maybe 4 mocktails like for one evening, and I woke up the next morning and I really felt like I kind of had a hangover, and I was like, what the
Yeah.
hell? Like I wasn't even drinking alcohol, and it was just really from the sugar content. So
Yeah.
from then on, I've been much more conscious of not, kind of having those sugary alternatives. So like, I don't want to wake up with a kind of hangover from mocktails. I was like, that's ridiculous. So I'm much more conscious with the sugary ones now. I also drink a lot of kombucha, which is really like good for your gut. And
Mhm.
that's another alternative that I really like. And I have kombucha pretty much every day.
I went through a phase where that was my like every afternoon. Before I found the fever tree, that was my yeah. And there are a lot of good ones out there for sure for that
What
too.
about, can I ask, has your relationship with like coffee changed since becoming alcohol free? Because
Oh,
I
Millie.
keep, I keep
Poor
being like,
Millie.
maybe
I have another hour.
I keep being like, maybe I should stop drinking coffee. Then I'm like, it just feels like it's like the last thing I'm like, I can't, okay, so sugar's gone. I don't eat gluten. I barely eat dairy, like all these things that I know are like not great for my body. But I've got 2 young kids, but then I do feel like sometimes coffee is not helping with my anxiety, and I'll try to quit for a few days and then, but yeah, I think it is probably something that should go for me.
Chrissy,
But
you want to
just
go
hard.
first?
Sure.
It's getting through those first, like 4 or 5 days. So I've done this twice. I'm currently
Mm.
off it again. And
Are you?
I'm
I was
just
gonna
no
say I can't keep
Yeah,
up.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. No, I'm back off of it. It's been a while now, but it was going then back to it, right? Like having a bad night's sleep, getting up and having it and noticing it actually from not having had it, what it did to my heart rate, my blood sugar, my stress. And I was
Yeah.
like, holy guacamole, I was drinking this every single morning, multiple cups of this a morning. And so,
It's like just that, the heart.
yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, it felt like I was on drugs or something. It was wild.
I think we're all like quite kind of sensitive people, and it's definitely something I've been able to notice more recently. And I think I wouldn't have noticed it if I was still drinking. But yeah,
Yeah.
noticing, okay, actually I had like 2 that day and then I didn't sleep that well that night. Or, actually,
Mhm.
okay, I had like racing thoughts in that meeting. Maybe I shouldn't have had a coffee right before I went in and like met those people I hadn't talked to
Mhm.
before, and being more conscious with it.
Yeah.
Uh, I think things like matcha also don't maybe give you the same spike. So there's maybe just like a swap, because I find the headaches when I try to completely go
Oh, yeah, they're horrible.
caffeine free are really hard.
Yeah.
So breaking up with coffee I did that before I broke up with wine. And
Okay.
so yeah, so I have a little bit of a different experience. And it was just one of those too where I was noticing that I'm like, why do I feel like I'm newly pregnant every afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon anyway. And so I did this little experiment, and it, like you, Christy, it was like not having it really highlighted for me how it was affecting me. So I had no trouble breaking up with it then I broke up with wine, now I drink like the matcha, the green tea. It helps you focus without accelerating your heart rate. So I'll have a matcha latte. I have a little like $30 frother and oat milk, and that's delicious. I'll have that sometimes. I became a tea drinker, so that's something that for the longest time I was like, oh, it'd be really cool to be a tea drinker, and I couldn't find anything I know, but and I couldn't find anything that I liked, and then I found this one that I love, and now I order that and I have that shipped in, and it's like every single day around 11 a.m. I wait. I don't do it like first thing, so it's not like tied to like I need this to like wake up and start my day. But around, mid-morning, I make my cup of tea and I have that, and it's lovely, and it's something about the ritual too of the hot and similar to like coffee
Yeah.
it was for me as well. So learn how wine is. Yeah.
I do love the coffee ritual, and I do drink quite a lot of decaf now as well. Like I was just
Oh,
drinking
yeah.
this is like an iced coffee in a can. It's decaf. It just feels nice after lunch to have that,
Yeah.
but without the caffeine. But yeah, I think I need to properly just break up with coffee or caffeinated coffee, because like mostly I notice that I don't feel great on the days that I have it. Like I'm stressed more easily, more likely to feel anxious.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to be like, I'm like, okay, I've already given
I
up
know.
so
I
much.
know. Yeah.
I just have my one thing still.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, right? Like, I mean, keep drinking it as long as it works for you. Like we always say with alcohol, like with wine, like, I mean, keep drinking it as long as it's working for you, keep going. But I will say something I learned with it, just a little sidebar here, with the coffee, like crop does tend to have more of unless you're, and maybe you have a really clean coffee. And so maybe that's not the case, but that was something that I noticed too. Like if I'm going to drink tea, it's going to be like really clean, so to speak, because oftentimes it's the extra stuff that's being thrown into it that can do all that stuff.
Yeah, I found
Fatigue.
this chicory root like coffee alternative called like not coffee.
Oh
No.
And that's really good because it's good for your digestion. It's like prebiotic.
Yeah.
And it tastes really nice with a bit of oat milk. So that's one of my favorites at the moment.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm going to write that down and try that. I like that.
It's just called not coffee.
not coffee. That sounds pretty perfect. See, it's not coffee.
Oh, well, Millie, I want to be respectful of your time. And I just thank you so, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so grateful for you. And again, I know I already said this, but I think what you're doing to be open and vulnerable and shed a light on this stuff and say the real stuff is so, so incredibly valuable to so many people. So we appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me this space to just like have these conversations. It's so important. And I can't wait to hear this episode.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
What
Millie.
fun it's been. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Millie.
We could talk all day.
Okay. Well, you've got my number, so we literally can.
Yeah, I know. Like
We should go for like a mocktail.
Yeah. Mead, you'll have to fly over from Atlanta.
Yes.
Okay.
I will.
You just
I
fly
will.
over.
I'll just zip right across. Sounds great.
Thanks, babe. You're the
Thank
best.
you so much.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us again this week. You can find all of our episodes at butjesusdrankwine.com, and make sure you follow us over on the gram at Love Life Sober with Christy and Mead at I'm Not Sober, I'm Free.
To learn more about what we do, you can visit our websites at meadhollandshirley.com and lovelifesober.com.
Take a screenshot of this podcast and share it with a friend or two.
And don't forget to subscribe so you don't have to worry about missing a single episode. And if you love what we're doing, please leave us a review on Apple or Spotify.
This helps more women who are feeling stuck and alone in the overdrinking cycle to find hope and encouragement.
Thanks, ladies. We so appreciate you. We'll see you next week.